Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Bitcoin has been driving traders insane due to the choppy price action lately, but honestly, guys, nothing too crazy is actually happening when you really zoom out even to the 4 hour like what I've done here. Really nothing too crazy. So let's just kind of start dissecting the price action a little bit and see what's really been going on the last couple days. Because since I was warning about these levels ever since opening my long at 108.9K, it's actually been very easy for me to approach this price action with a very level head because I planned ahead just in case this scenario happened. To be honest, I had no idea we were going to go this high when I opened up my long down there, but I mentioned it as a possibility due to a typical Stuber fib pull and where the swing fail zone is basically for a little fake out at all-time highs, and we got it. So here we are. Honestly, well, at this point, I'm mostly out of my long. I only have about 10% running on this as a bit of a moon bag just in case we do absolutely go parabolic randomly here. But I still also have about 80% of my short running from up here. So I am actually quite a bit heavier on the short side than the long side, but only because I've taken so much profits off of this long because it's been a beautiful, that's one of those home run positions where I wasn't expecting it to go that far, but it did. And that's why I'm still at this very minute still holding on to a chunk of that position. I love to let runners run when given the opportunity, but also at the same time, if I ever feel like, hey, if I round trip from here, am I going to be disappointed in myself? If I'm ever thinking that, then it's time to take some more profits, basically. But yeah, at this point, I just have a lot of concerns about Bitcoin, and I want to explain why. That doesn't necessarily mean we go straight into a full-on bear market. I still think it's possible that altcoins go for a run. I just think that it's at least, and not guaranteed, obviously. That's the thing. Having invalidations in place, obviously you can see where all my resistance levels are up here, basically ending around 127.2K. But just what the chart is showing me right now, I just have many concerns that we could be in for a much deeper correction, and it could be a top for Bitcoin where even if it just forms some sort of a big distribution range, very possible at this point where it takes a while, ranges, chops around a bunch, and then we end up getting that dump. Or, you know, like I said, we invalidate this bearish setup completely, break above those highs, and at that point, I will consider the possibility that we can start staircasing higher. And if that happens, I will start looking for bullish Stuber fibs on the pullbacks, basically. But at this point, it's a little bit late now, so obviously the easy entry was up in the swing fail zone between my 1 and 115 fibs. Never even hit all my entries. I had a few a little bit higher, but it is what it is. Beautiful position to be in. And like I said at the start of the stream, or just before starting the stream with you guys, to me it looks like just an obvious break in structure for this swing that we had to the upside. Right, ever since we bottomed here at this Stuber fib pocket, absolutely perfectly there, filling this 886 pretty much bang on. Ever since that uptrend began, we just set a series of higher highs and higher lows, right? Even if we go high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Sorry, there was one in there as well. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and we broke that structure. Even if you wanted to consider this point back here, we broke that structure. So there's just been we broke that whole uptrend. We never broke that type of structure once, even when really micro-analyzing. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that structure doesn't even count, but I very much so count that kind of structure on a 4 hour. And after breaking that, like I said, we lost this level. We came back up and got rejected and set another lower low. Even if it's just a wick here, yeah, it's very possible. Hey, we got a little bullish swing fail here. We go back up, but we still have this level here right at approximately 124.1K. That is a lower high on the trend. It's a confirmed lower high because we got that lower low. On top of that, I want to zoom in a little bit. Let's look at the order block that ended up pushing this trend to new highs. And that is right here, right? Where the bears basically made their last attempt at pushing lower. And then instead we ended up breaking to new highs here. So this is kind of the block that I'm looking at here. Notice that I have it outlined as right from wick to wick. and I also have the candle bodies, so for overlapping there, and no candle bodies were able to even close in the candle body zone. Kind of got rejected there, and the wicks basically went right up to the wick perfectly, and then therefore giving us a breaker block here, and we respected that the shit out of that on the support resist flip here, as well as losing that market structure and not even getting back up to my macro resistance pocket, right? Seeing weakness early coming into play. As well, we see it on the MDX Trendmaster. I mean, you can see that we start printing lower buy signals and lower sell signals. So even at this point, even though we're getting a nice little bounce and we have a buy signal on the Trendmaster on the 5-minute, it is a significantly lower buy, just like here. You know, we just had this downtrend where we have lower buys and we also have lower sells. So basically, as long as we are below this resistance of approximately, we'll call it 123.8K, just to give it that little wiggle room, as long as we're below that level, this is a very bearish trend for me, even on the 5-minute. Yeah, it makes sense that we would end up getting some sort of a push up to these levels, because we did technically break this lower high on the micro trend, right? Confirmed lower high. We have broke that. So it is possible that we end up going and testing the bigger range, right? If we ended up breaking the smaller range here, it makes a lot of sense that we would go test the larger range that we started that downtrend in, basically. However, it's also possible that even if we're going to get that bullish move back up to those levels, it's very possible we do a retest, get some sort of a Stuber fib, and then end up pushing up towards the bigger range resistance. And a lot of people would get very bullish if that happens. People love getting real bullish when we get a breakout right into resistance, and they get very vocal at resistance, just like people get very concerned at support. But if we ended up getting something like that, I'm not as interested in playing this Stuber fib from a long perspective, but I absolutely see reasons why we could get something like that before sending to new lows. And one of those reasons is just because the fact that we have lower trending sell signals, we have bearish structure on this trend, basically, unless we break this level here. So I'd be looking at something like this, basically. As far as the nearest Stuber fib that I can see from catching the continuation of the bearish trend, basically, would be something like this. So that resistance would start around 122.8K. And honestly, anywhere above that is still resistance. Basically, from 122.8 thousand to 127.2 thousand, that is all fair game for a potential rejection, just as far as the structure is on this chart. It's not even a crazy macro chart. This is just a 4-hour. I'm just looking at the 4-hour for what it is. And that's a very big range. Obviously, it's quite volatile, but it is what it is. Anywhere in that range is just fair game for a very dirty rejection, in my opinion. And the fact that I know a couple of other of the mentors have been talking about it. I saw Viking talking about it. The fact as where we are in this market cycle currently just matches up very well with the tops of the last 2 market cycles. Now, obviously, this does not have to happen the exact same. Absolutely not. Does not have to happen. But, in general, the trend is your friend until the end. And we have seen the last 2 cycles where we get about 152 weeks from bottom to top of a market cycle, 152 weeks. And where are we right now? We are currently at 151 weeks. So we are right in that time frame with very serious macro looking rejections happening. The timing is absolutely lining up with the price action right now to be a potential market top. I'm not saying that it has to be, but it has to be on our radar as a very realistic possibility, because at the end of the day, we just want to be open to all scenarios and for setups, basically potential beautiful trade setups, right? I mean, I always want to be a seller at resistance. I would rather be, I close. A lot of people were getting very bullish and opening longs into the breakout into all-time highs. Well, guess what? I closed another 10% of my long position at resistance, because at resistance, I'm looking to take profits on longs or selling, or shorting. Just like at support, I was looking for longing and buying dips. It's we all know that you're supposed to buy low and sell high. You're supposed to buy support, sell resistance, but when the time comes, people sure as hell can't do it. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's very hard to do. The price always looks strongest at resistance. The price always looks weakest at support. That's just what our emotions do to us. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. And that's why most people get wrecked in trading, right? So at this point, we just have to be real careful, you guys. Even if the MDX Trendmaster ends up, let's say we lose this buy signal and we end up getting a lower sell signal on the 5-minute before we get up to these resistance levels, that could just be an early warning sign that the bears are in total control and they are stepping in early, basically. We'll have to see what happens. As far as market structure goes, I still like this resistance up here for the more obvious play. And if we start breaking those levels, yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of work for Bitcoin to do still to end up invalidating these bearish thoughts. Another thing to watch, guys, is obviously the long short ratio. And on the MDX dashboard, you can see that the longs have aggressively stepped in. Retail is very much so, although it hasn't crossed yet. We are seeing longs coming into the market. Retail is absolutely trying to long this dip right now. And in my opinion, that is just fuel for the fire. If retail keeps longing aggressively and we see this cross here and we see the green coming up on this indicator, basically, I mean, you can see what happens when those longs start increasing, the price starts decreasing. As soon as we see the longs start dropping off here, we see the price start climbing. And right now we are seeing the price dropping and the longs are climbing. So unfortunately, it looks like retail wants to add fuel to that fire. And as long as those longs keep climbing, I am convinced that this is the start of a nice swing to the downside. Just like how I caught that long, I'm thinking I may have caught a beautiful short here. Happy to be wrong. Like I said, I mean, the portfolio would love it if we break out to the upside and everything goes parabolic. Portfolio would love that. But I am very happy that I planned ahead for this exact scenario, started laddering into shorts in my swing fail zone, just planning ahead to protect myself more than anything. I wasn't even bearish, you guys. When I opened this position up here, I wasn't bearish like I am right now. I was merely taking it because, for one, it was uncomfortable to open because it looked like we were going to break out. That's one bearish point for me. Or rather, point of confluence for me is that it was uncomfortable. Two, just from a risk reward perspective, I mean, I can get bearish in this pocket here, and all Bitcoin has to do to invalidate me is climb 2% higher. It's not like I'm missing the whole bull market if we end up breaking through that resistance. All Bitcoin had to do was climb 2% higher. Actually, from where we ended up, all Bitcoin had to do was climb 1% higher, and my bearish theories would have been invalidated, but it couldn't do that. And that's why I am more so looking to play the downside at this point on Bitcoin. And yeah, hopefully that turns into a beautiful runner. Ooh, yeah, Adrian, that's an interesting liquidity pocket you got there, down below 110K. And yeah, honestly, I mean, look where my Stuber fib targets are, right? Let's look at this bearish fib pull. My first target here would be approximately 116K, and my second target, the 214 fib, would be right around 111K. And at that point, I mean, no reason why we can't test the absolute lows again, retest the support, the very bottom of support, or honestly lower. And if we break that structure, that is a nasty structure break. Especially if we lose this green box here, very nasty. That would be very bad for the market, in my opinion. And any bounce there, I would be looking to short, basically. Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons to think, like you're pointing out, a lot of liquidity. Let's check out the liquidations as well. I would say that there is a lot more here. I'm actually going to duplicate my chart so I can just erase, let's nuke this chart and just look at liquidations. You can see that the high leverage liquidations are starting to build to the downside. There's still a little bit to the upside. And notice when I said that my invalidation level is basically 127.2K, somewhere in there. And notice that that is just slightly above those high leverage liquidation levels. So again, that's another reason why even if we do climb a little bit, I think it's just to grab a little bit of liquidity, but there is so much liquidity starting to form below us. And let's just take a fib pull. Take a fib pull of even from here. I'm going to go from the bottom of the range. Let's take our fib pull from the bottom of the range. And just notice that all that liquidity basically lines up with the double bottom. There's basically liquidity right around the Stuber fib, right? There's some getting, right against the 786 there. And then as soon as you break the 886, there's a bunch more to double bottom. So again, this would basically, if we drop 104K, I think it's lights out for Bitcoin. I think at that point we can say that we are going into a very serious downtrend, but there's a lot of what ifs between now and then, so we'll have to see what happens. Again, it's not that I am stuck in bear mode right now. I'm just looking at this structure for what it is. We have broke higher lows. We're setting lower lows. We did not invalidate my bearish Stuber setup here with my fib pull. And I've been talking about this for weeks at this point, so we were ready for these levels, you guys. I'm going to erase this one here. I do want to take a look at the 1 hour, actually. I wanted to see what the trend master is doing on the 1 hour. I don't think we would have had time to get a lower sell signal yet. We've obviously broke the higher low. So we have a sell signal on the hourly. We don't have a lower one yet. Actually, there was something else that caught my attention. If I hop over to the daily chart, you guys, check this out. You guys know I love using the auto fibs for Confluence for looking for my Fibonacci pulls. Hopefully it's still like this, but bring up the Algo Master and notice that it has the exact same auto. The auto Stuber fibs are matching up with my Stuber fibs absolutely perfectly. So that's additional confluence for that setup, why I think it's very possible that we find resistance here. And invalidation is the same as mine, right? Just above 127.2K, just like I've been saying for weeks at this point. So yeah, if Biddy can push above that, I think I think at that point, it's very possible we break the 4-year cycle and we just staircase higher and we go into an extended bull market. I am here for that. If that happens, I would love to see it. And that would actually be very healthy if we actually started staircasing higher. Then we would have good, easy invalidations to the trend as we set higher highs. We would have new higher, confirmed higher lows and being able to pull new fibs, basically looking for bullish setups at that point. But as it stands right now, we haven't broken the bearish one yet. So it is what it is until that happens. Ethereum, I have some concerns with. One is that I laid out this fib pocket about a week ago, and we came right up to this Stuber fib, pulled from our highs, all-time highs, down to the local lows. And notice that we got rejected off the 786 absolutely perfectly. We still have a buy signal on the Trendmaster on the 4-hour. However, it is a lower sell signal, and I would not be surprised if in the next few candles we see a lower sell signal come into play. At that point, I would be willing to take a short on Ethereum as well and see what happens with that. But so far, I don't really want to short Ethereum yet. I really should have taken that one that I was pointing out. Never did. Solana, same thing. I was kind of warning, not so much that it was a bearish Stuber, not so much that we lost the uptrend of higher buys. You know, Solana actually looks very good on the Trendmaster. It's just that I was warning that the Stuber fib played out. We reached the first target and the second target, the main Stuber target, the 214 fib. We reached it basically pinpoint accurate, and I said that a rejection is absolutely possible at that point because target reached from a bullish perspective. The target of the range reached. Obviously, a breakout would have been beautiful, but play the range first and hope for a breakout after. Hype is one I was talking about for about the last week. I was really expecting a pullback to my Stuber fib here. Got it today. Beautiful 786 test, and so far a little bit of a bounce here. Approaching my first target. My first target would be right around $45 and just say $45.50 basically would be a good first target. Second target of the range would be around $48.80, and from there I'd be hoping for a breakout with the remaining half of the position, but so far getting a nice little reaction there. Troll as well. I know a lot of people across social media are panicked about this one because it pulled back so much. I mean, meme coins, even the ones that do very well, do have very violent pullbacks. This one being 70% from the highs. But it consolidated. It's not like this was a rug pull, you guys. This was a consolidation in a falling wedge. We get our breakout. We come back. We retest. We're really just coming and retesting a range. And just like any typical Stuber fib setup, I mean, so often you see these wedge breaks line up with something like this. And that's why I have my purple box here, because I've just had a few buy levels on the way down. Because as far as meme coins, right? Troll is the first one that I really... I can get behind just because I understand it's actually an OG meme out there on the internet and a whole bunch of reasons, but whatever. I'm not here to shill this to you. Just as far as what the market structure looks like to me, we have a potential bullish Stuber fib lining up on the 4 hour. So like I said, even if Bitcoin has topped, you guys, I still think it's very possible that altcoins go for some sort of a last, just one final push. There's always the chance that this cycle is different and we don't really get that. But typically after Bitcoin ends up topping and forming some sort of a distribution range, you will see altcoins go for their turn of the market cycle, where Bitcoin kind of trades sideways and alts go nuts. So there's a few coins like this that I have positions in just in case, basically. But so I feel differently about altcoins than I do with Bitcoin at this point. I think it's very likely that Bitcoin has topped for the cycle, whereas I think a lot of altcoins are still going to make their move. But it's very possible that it all just nukes together. It's very possible everything pumps together. That's the thing. If Bitcoin ends up setting new highs and breaking my bearish theories, you guys, at that point, I think altcoins are going to be basically in a very good place either way, right? If Bitcoin ends up ranging sideways, I think altcoins are going to do well. If Bitcoin ends up breaking out, that's just an even a healthier market, and I think altcoins are in a very good position then. But obviously, we're going to have to see what happens, because something, as the market gets spooked, who knows? I mean, altcoins at the best of times this cycle have not exactly been performing well, because the whole altcoin market has been so diluted by trash. But we're going to have to see what happens, basically. If Bitcoin does end up topping, here's another thing, you guys. Just a couple of interesting things lining up on the macro time frame I kind of forgot to mention here. But as I mentioned, it's possible we're getting to the end of our 4-year cycle unless we end up breaking that. There's also a few things lining up currently that it could also happen if we push a little bit higher. But there's a few levels to watch for if we get that total panic, that 1 year downtrend kind of a thing. We have a few things lining up right now right at the 786 of where the market cycle is right now. So I could see this climbing a little bit higher and we get a pullback damn near to our Stuber fibs, let's say somewhere between 40 and 50,000. It is a possibility. At this point, it's obviously early to claim it's going to happen, but it's more so that there's a couple things lining up down there if the 4-year cycle does in fact happen and we are about to get rejected in the next week or two. But obviously we're going to have to see. There's a lot of what ifs between now and then, basically. Let's put it that way. Yeah, that's a good question, JB. What are people expecting more, extended cycle or 4-year? I feel like Twitter and YouTube, I mostly see extended. Yeah, I would also say a lot of people are starting to say they don't believe in the 4-year cycle and they think this cycle is going to be different and all that sort of stuff. The thing is, we're going to know in the next couple of weeks, right? I mean, it's okay to change your opinion as things get invalidated. So, like I said, if in the next week or two, as we're approaching that 152 week cycle, as we approach that, and if we do happen to top out here, I mean, we'll know. But if we end up breaking that, if we end up breaking this level here in the next couple of weeks, then the bearish theory is invalidated, the 4-year cycle's invalidated. Yeah, that would be beautiful to see, right? But we're just at a time right now that in the next couple of weeks, in my opinion, is kind of make or break for this cycle for Bitcoin. Of course, who knows, right? The market doesn't give a shit about my opinions or my feelings. I just play it one swing at a time. It's not like I'm an all or nothing guy. You guys know even my trade setups, I always ladder into positions. I ladder out of positions. I'm not, it's not like I'm going to sell everything and go all in on shorts or anything like that. Paulie, as you say there, I'll probably TP the Ethereum long you showed me around the daily close. Something to consider is, you know, just in case this remains bullish, maybe close half, or if you're planning on closing the whole thing, maybe just leave a quarter of it run or something like that, just in case it happens to keep running. I just find that helps with my emotions so much, because then you don't find yourself panicking to get into a new position. If something you were expecting to happen with your, or you were already in a good position, you close it and then you see it continues playing out and you want to FOMO back into a position, it can make you make some silly mistakes. So I personally just like to let some run, even if it's just a small amount, even to use it as a cushion, and then adding into a position with better confirmations or something like that, and being able to still have a break even stop. I mean, that's also a good position to be in. So I always like to let some run if I can, but to each their own. Obviously, everyone trades differently. Adrian, if so, then we will do the opposite, and then next run up will be extended, reverse psychology, max pain trap. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot of people saying that they don't believe in the 4-year cycle anymore. And honestly, as far as the halving goes, I do think that the halving matters less and less every cycle, because obviously from an exponential point of view, you're cutting that half down drastically less. I understand that, yes, there's less being mined, but there is still constantly Bitcoin being mined, so there's always more going into circulation. Not saying it doesn't affect it. It obviously does, but I think it'll just matter less and less each cycle, and it's going to be more of what the big players decide, right? What is the old 5-minute looking like here? Altcoin season at full throttle, Litecoin up 6% while everything dumped. Nice, nice. Yeah, there's always the few coins that end up running the opposite, right? I find that Troll does that quite often, where all of a sudden Troll will be bouncing and the rest of the market's dumping, and also the opposite, but not always. Much like the DXY and Bitcoin, right? Although often there is inverse correlations, it doesn't have to, and it's not always inverse correlated. So, but yeah, it is funny when everything dumps and it's like, oh, why is this coin up 10% or 5% or 20% and everything else is down? Ooh, weekly RSI. Good question. Good question. There was a nasty that might have got broke, but this was a, ooh, that's a nasty one. Not gonna lie, that is bang on the 70 level for that divergence, and that is exactly what I like to see for Confluence, and that was right around our highs. The thing is, when that printed, we never had the bearish structure yet when that printed, so there is that nasty divergence, absolutely. Usually I like to see let's say a bearish structure break followed by a double top with that kind of formation, that's a setup that I really like to play. In this case, I haven't back tested this specifically when the price action doesn't necessarily agree with my setup or whatever, but we'll have to see. If the RSI ends up breaking out and breaks this downtrend and goes back into overbought conditions, I think we go higher. That would be a good warning sign that we go higher. But yeah, currently there's a nasty divergence there. Thanks for making me look at that. I know I usually do, but sometimes I forget, and it's good to bring that up on the radar because that is nasty looking. I actually want to see. That one doesn't line up as nicely. I like this one because it's that overextended down to the 70 level, that bearish divergence that I like to see. Just that perfect rejection at that 70. Ooh, that is clean. Like I said, if we would have lost an uptrend and then had a double top with that, oh, I would have been so bearish. Stu Bear would have been full out of hibernation at that point. But right now he has mixed feelings. Oh no, Discord is messing with some people. Hopefully most of you guys can still hear me. Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the next day or two holds for the long short ratio, because right now retail is only 51.68% short. I want to say, was it not just a day or two ago that retail was like 65 or 60% short? I can't remember exactly what it... Oh, never mind. I guess I can look. What was it at? Yeah, retail was 64% short, 36% long, whereas now they are 48% long, 52% short basically. So the longs are drastically picking up as we trade into resistance. I say this all the time, that people love FOMOing into resistance. Yeah, 20 minutes this will update, right? On the daily close, daily open, whichever. What is, I think, the Trendmaster. So the Trendmaster on the daily has a beautiful higher buy, and that is potential support around 117K. That would also line up with a support resistance flip of the middle of this range basically. So again, it's not like all hope is lost. There is some signs of strength in the market. It's really just where we're at in the cycle. We just have to be cautious when we approach resistance, right? When we're at support levels, sure, take your longs, play the range for what it is. But as we trade into all-time high resistance and we see the longs climbing and stuff like that, just be careful at that point. I would like I said earlier, I would way rather be a seller at resistance, even if I'm wrong and it breaks out. Typically speaking, it's better to be bearish and being a seller at resistance and, you know, being bullish and buying at support. So generally speaking, that's what we want to do. And I can feel whatever gut feeling I want. I mean, that's why I love Fibonacci setups, is because it makes it very systematic and it makes it easy to stay very rational and level-headed, because you have those numbers, right? You have your entries, you have your invalidations, you have your take profits. What more do you need? You just play the chart for what it is. And guys, just in case not all of you are aware yet, I did start a new YouTube channel. So I know I'll still upload these private streams to StuTube Trading, but I've been doing several live streams a week on this new channel. So make sure you are subscribed to the crypto trading channel. Boom. Very generic and should nail that algorithm, hopefully. But yeah, that's the new channel where I've been doing public live streams, usually just 20-25 minute live streams several times a week. So if you want to see those more of my live streams, yeah, do me a favor and subscribe to that. Helps go a long way with such a new channel, helps the algorithm and that sort of stuff. So SEO? What you talking about, Smurden? Yes, exactly. And that was the whole plan. That's why well, yeah, that's still with my partnership through Financial Summit, where I was doing public live streams. But they just wanted to give me my own new channel that was more of a generic trading channel, because more so a lot of Bitcoin maxis over there, whereas here we have actual traders. So for my public channel, we just wanted something with a nice name that picks up the algos nicely, and just anything crypto, altcoins, Bitcoin, shitcoins, meme coins, whatever, trade it all. So yo, welcome, good to see you again. It's been a while. Adrian, I know I heard that the airdrop for Aster was October 17th. I don't know if that's for sure. That's what someone on my last week's stream told me, I believe. So in a week or so. Unless that was you who told me that. Maybe that was you last week who told me that, in which case we'll see. No, I think it was Plumbus. Well, guys, let's jump into the 1 minute. I kind of went over what I wanted to go over, so let's check out the 1 minute and do some babysitting here. Let's see what the Trendmaster is saying. We do have a higher sell signal. We do still have higher buy signals on the 1 minute. Potential resistance. So we did break this our little micro trend here. Boom. See, same thing. We had this last red candle before we pushed higher. I'm including the wicks on that, but pulling that as an order block, and then we end up losing that, and we basically, I guess we got just shy of it, but you can see that right away ran into troubles with that level. So that's obviously micro analyzing, but just to show you how accurate that kind of price action can be. Let's look at back here even, right? This would have been before we ended up pushing from this high to this higher high. This would have been basically our final little push from the old bears there, and look where we ended up finding support, right on that order block. Again, micro analyzing there, but just looking at basic market structure. Yeah, Trendmaster. Still a sell signal here. Let's see, did the Algo Master have it? Oh, the Algo Master picked up a bearish fib on the 1 minute. Look at that. Would make sense to chop and potentially retest 119 to 120k again. I agree with that 100%. We could be looking at something like this. 786 would be around 120.1k, 886 at about 119.8k, double bottom at about 119.6k, and bears in showing their strength if we break below 119.3k. Basically that would be invalidation for that bullish Stuber fib setup. All stew all the time. Oh, other stew left. We had a couple stews in here for a while. um. Ooh, Aster, important updates. Claim period, 30 days from launch. Final claim deadline. Oh, the final claim deadline is October 17th. Withdrawals opens October 1st. So we can go claim airdrops on it already? Yeah, we'll have to look into that. That's true. There's only one of me. That's very true. I'm unique. So are they airdropping Aster tokens then? That's what they're airdropping for people who have traded on the DEX? I haven't been trading there a ton, so I'm not expecting a big airdrop there, but I'll take what I can get. Oh, nice. Thank you, sir. I will absolutely be checking that out. Yeah, anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. Also, for those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little bit later, if you want access to the MDX ALGO indicators that I use each and every day, there is a 10% discount link in the description down below, as well as a link to trade no KYC on BloFin, where I do most of my trading, which also grants access to my private Telegram channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to my new YouTube channel, where I'm doing several live streams every week. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.